meditation with the view of understanding the benefits of meditation in the longer term. So the public like us has some inherent ideas. For example, meditation has benefits in spiritual, physical, and in the mind. So I would like you to explain to us what is meditation, and then we move into the benefits of meditation a bit later.
So to make the discussion very precise, I would like to define meditation for the moment as mindfulness. So whenever we are going to take mindful meditation or mindfulness, we can say it is awareness. And whenever you try to be mindful, what are the benefits? Basically two types, worldly and transcendental. So people like society at large, they can't understand on the outset what are the transcendental kind, what are the lokuttara, but they can fairly understand the worldly. So therefore, even the Buddha, anyone, start with what is possible to digest, possible to understand, that is the worldly benefits. So if I am to cite the famous Sutta, Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha gives 7 benefits. The last one is the only one, transcendental. The early 6 are usually you can verify within this world or with this physical body or physics. So we can say early part 7 are scientific. The last one is going beyond the science, or it is science. Scientists may say it is mystic-like. So therefore don't rush into that. So we'll discuss the early part where we can put into machine verifiability. So these are the list. If I am to cite, enumerate, it is first and foremost is the purification of the being.
Bhante, what's the difference between the open-mindedness and the meditation, mindfulness meditation?
So that is very important, because meditation, or whenever you try to be mindful, then only you can understand how much you are stereotyped whenever you are not mindful. So therefore soon you try to be mindful. It takes long time you to be prepare the mindset to be this mindful kind of a situation. So whenever you are attracted, whenever you are directed, whenever you are adverted into an object, your mind becomes narrowed. So our mind is under the prison or captured situation of the senses. Senses are always try to focus into one particular object, so mind yield into that. Ultimately mind is either seeing object, hearing object, smelling, tasting, touching and thinking. So mindfulness indicate at least, before it comes to the broader spectrum of open-mindedness, where is the present moment? Are you seeing or hearing, smelling, tasting, touching? And there's one advanced level, you can be aware of it, and sometimes you can be free of seeing, hearing, smelling and tasting, touching, still be mindful. So you start with directed mind, adverted mind, and keep on practicing. Mindfulness learns how to be mindful without getting trapped into your organs, or namely eye, ear, nose, tongue, etc.
Yes, Bhante. So how does mindfulness help us on a reaction versus preparedness, or what you call it, the proactive responses?
If you are not mindful, you are always with the premeditated idea. You are with your character traits and personality traits. So whatever the stimuli happen, you are rather reactive. So you appeal like your character, your personality, your likings and dislikes. But mindfulness will help you later. There is another method. You can accept the stimuli without a reaction. If you are not mindful, you don't know that option. Whenever things happen, you react just like a cat. Soon see a rat. Rat cannot do anything other than jumping and catching.
Yes,
So
Bhante.
likewise, our mind, unmindful, is just a cat or like a monkey mind. But human mind is much improved and gone further in the evolution. It can be free of reaction, or rather we can say unassuming, or rather we can say without preconceived ideas, premeditated ideas, so that you to understand your capacity, it will take time. Mindfulness is the only tool I would like to suggest for that kind of understanding.
So let me follow up with another question to what Bhante explained, which is when one is in mindful, how does it affect one's view of the world? Does that give us a different way of looking at it, other than the stereotypic vision?
So it is a kind of evolution. It would have stopped 20 million years before. Mind is now in a trap. So whenever you try to mindfulness, you open the brand new big vistas, and there you understand, instead of this narrow-minded reaction, there are some other possibilities that we call neurobics. Our brain using only the prepared tracks, and it is less than 2% of your capacity. But whenever you mindful, you understand, instead of this 2% or 4% what you are using, it's a huge area. So that openness definitely affects your view towards the world, view towards me. Both are the same.
Yes, Bhante. So when we develop mindfulness, it's supposed to improve our own awareness or the self-awareness. And if that's the case, so how that help or benefit us?
If you are not mindful, if I am to cite Sigmund for its presentation, we know only the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, Bhante.
That is, usually it is 10%. But whenever you try to understand, I know only the tip of the iceberg, you have some kind of inquisitive idea. What is the rest of the berg? 90%. It is usually subsurface or submarine, and due to the upward push of the iceberg, only tip come over the water. And the day you understand, my sense-based understanding is only tip of the iceberg. But that is not everything about my mind, about my brain, about my capacity. So one day you will make a tunnel from the tip to the iceberg. So when it is happening, the science become mystics, and rational thinking will go beyond that. So if that particular person is ready for that is or not is a separate issue. But the tool is there. So we can go. So therefore we have to understand simple with this example. Unless otherwise you are mindful, you are talking about yourself with that limited understanding of the tip of the iceberg.
A little while ago, Bhante, you mentioned that lack of mindfulness leads to fear of freedom, which is a very important part, an exciting part. How does that happen?
So whenever the day you starting from the tip of the iceberg, when you are drilling, soon you go beyond the water level, the meniscus. You go to an unknown area. You go to a limitless area. So your egotistic idea is always threatening. So therefore it has a tendency to come back to the known area and to the known periphery rather than going to the unknown. So it is a embedded thing, just like for survival of the fittest or fear of unknown. So therefore in the civilized society we make our known world and then we feel comfortable. So much so we become less risk lovers, we become poor scouting, and whenever you become a risk lover and try to be like a scouting, you feel like going to unknown. It is like a adventurous thing. So each and every great scientist or heroes, even in the physical world, they are naturally going against the grain. So they can go into the unknown. So if you are aware theoretically this is what happened in your mind, there may be some kind of adventurous thing. I call this is masculinity. Masculinity is pushing, and you are going to unknown. But we have the feminist part in our life. It is only happy to be in the known area. For example, one person tried to paint a picture. Towards the evening, the mother is always looking inside the cave, what is happening, what to eat tonight, and where the children to sleep, and kind of thing. But the male is waiting at the gate, looking there, outdoor, see what is the danger can happen. So it is ready, and mother take care about the father, he is outwardly. And the mother is inside the cave. So this is the way mind happens. So we have this masculinity and the feminine characteristic. So Buddha is promoting that masculine, the energetic, diligent, vigilant character. So it's naturally risk-loving. It is lack of fear of freedom.
Thank you, Bhante. So we know that we should not meditate to achieve a specific goal or benefit from meditation. Yet, would you be able to elaborate what benefits of meditation for ordinary people like us?
So the first and foremost, I try to answer the very first early part of our discussion, so the purification of the being. So as Sayadaw Pandita says, purification of being is not cleaning your body.
Yes,
it is not disinfection of the body, it is the mind. So you have to understand, if it is no mindfulness, mind is just spoiled. And it is not directed something. So therefore, whenever mindfulness happens, just like a piece of iron get magnetized when it is associated with another magnet in a systematic way. So then all the ions will be directed, and then the iron become polarized, and it start magnetic characters. So likewise, whenever you are doing mindfulness, slowly the disorganized ions in the iron, I am using iron in two ways,
yes.
Ultimately it becomes directed, and it's a special character.
So it's harmonized.
Directed. The one
direction.
Vegaya pravegaya, Singaling kyanne, manda negative English vachan deka.
Yes,
once it's directed, you can tap that energy. So this is what happened in the mind.
So during the last 10 years or so, there have been a lot of medical research or scientific research into mindfulness, and especially the North American, United States, 3 or 4 large research centers, including the demonstration of the brain, specific brain sites like amygdala and hippocampus and the prefrontal areas of the brain on the size changes with meditation. Some areas shrinks, some areas increase. Similarly, in the last 5-6 years, the scientists have shown that from functional MRI point of view, the function of the brain also change positively with mindfulness. For example, the size of amygdala, which is a stress center, actually shrink with the mindfulness, whereas the hippocampus, it's the area of the high intellectual part, the size increases, thickness of the gray matter increases with mindfulness. So, will that help on the long term? How does it help the ordinary people who are being less mindful and meditating less than appropriate amount, for example, infrequently? Will that in some benefit, you think?
Yeah, this whole scientific understanding with two wrong misconceptions. One thing is brain is equal to mind. It's a basic mistake, but scientists will accept it. So we have to keep it clear. Second thing is, all the scientists' approach is therapeutic. All the scientists for the healing, cure. So therefore they have never given any thought regarding preventive part.
Right.
So for the last 40 years I was observing it, as you mentioned, I got a lot of benefits out of this scientific papers, but throughout my mind was asking, why they are trying to see the physical brain as the mind. So there is one book called The Mind by Richard Stark, done by BBC. So I got, with all the difficulties, one second hand copy and read, And he searched and see there's no place, no center in the brain to say it's a mind. So later they developed the idea, not only in the brain, each and every cell is having a nucleus. This works as the brain for that particular cell. So our knowledge is body knowledge, is whole body is the mind. It's also wrong. So therefore you have to keep that in mind. Second thing is the preventive and the therapeutic part. But whenever you are observing the mindfulness from the Buddha's point of view, not only it is talking about the physical gain and the physical benefit, it's going beyond it, to transcending it. When you put that also into the picture, you see mindfulness is a kind of a thing, no limits. But science, they have to somewhere, they have to start with the one point, so we have to appreciate it. But you have to keep our mind open. Mindfulness is more beyond science. So therefore it's a kind of a thing, help in such a way, the thinking like mindfulness came east to the west due to scientific approach. And then we, Eastern people, we can understand a lot of terminology, a lot of methodologies came. But still we have to keep it open. It must not be limited to this therapeutic part. And we must not believe the brain is the mind. So if you are away from this misconception, the Western things are really beneficial to go into the mainstream mindfulness.
So scientific approach now, of course, is superficial in the sense that there's no techniques available to date to examine the mind and where's the mind and what happened with the meditation. Nevertheless, as Bhante, you are aware, we did some studies back in 1994-95, which was clearly demonstrated that when somebody is mindful and meditating, their stress level significantly go down, and we demonstrate very clearly through the stress hormones like corticosteroids as well as adrenaline and noradrenaline level. They change dramatically. They're twofold, threefold different during and post-mindful period. And compared to non-mindful, non-meditating people, it didn't change at all. So that's hormonally, chemically, we can demonstrate that there's a marked benefit as well.
Because each and every cell is having a mitochondria and the RNA DNA. If you have meditate 1 hour, the cap in the end of the RNA DNA, which is designed in senility, is being affected. So even 1 hour meditation, you become rejuvenated. So not to the endocrinology, not to the brain, but each and every cell time. So that is due to the functional MRI scan and the present day. But I was very happy with the Satipasala and kind of thing. They started with this kind of a therapeutic preventive way. Ultimately, after the bombing of the 9/11 Trade Center, they started talking about emotional intelligence. Why one person is talking about the destruction? Why other people talking about the peace of mind and the emotional well-being of others and the pollution? And they are now come with all the scientific this thing, emotional intelligence, emotional literacy. And we have to fight against emotional illiteracy. So present day education system never give a thought about how much it is promoting emotional illiteracy. Not the IQ, you have to be EQ. So when that happens, the preventive part come into the curative, come into the therapeutic part, came into the preventive.
So the good example is actually from Princeton, Bhante Vimala had a program in the New York 2 prisons about 10 years ago. And it really shows that the preliminary data shows that coming these prisoners back into the jail reduced almost by 50% with those who actually attend those programs. That shows that what you're saying about emotional component, the importance of mindful as a development process altogether. So, but we don't have the tool to connect these dots yet. We really don't understand the entire program.
Dhamma friends, the program in the prison, practicing Goenka system, and they have found if you can introduce mindfulness to the criminals, they are confessing. They are confessing, and ultimately they can come into that. Now dots are coming into the picture. So we have came into this world in a very precious time. We have no time to waste. So you have to be very alert, be mindful, and more research papers will come over a comprehensive idea rather than scientific directed thing. So we have to get the benefits as well as contribute to the mindfulness by, I would say, be mindful and mind your own business.
Right. At the moment, you're absolutely right, Bhante. What we do as a scientist is just compartmentalize MRIs, the chemistry and the biochemistry and the hormonal. So we need to put them together as in the one map to understand situation. So let's conclude this session by asking you to give a brief advice on the lay people for them to get interested in mindfulness, and why should they be mindful?
So if you are going to define the term lay people, you are in trouble. Everyone is people, whether you are ordained or not. So therefore, how we apply mindfulness in the mainstream population?
Day-to-day life.
Day-to-day life. So when I started, I had no chance for sitting and walking like that. I started with brushing my teeth. So you also, if you are brushing, if you wish to incorporate your day-to-day activities with the mindfulness, no limits. So therefore, don't try to put into the structure or stereotype like a intensive meditation system. You can incorporate into that, and that is the beauty of present day. And therefore, the religious people little disturbed, which is going beyond the frame. So this is also another trend in the present sense. So therefore, in Satipatha, like